Hey guys, Chris with Tillman Family Farms. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about something that I see a lot of conversations on social media, and I mean even at farmers markets I see a lot of talk about this, and that's how do you come up with pricing. For everybody this is going to be different, but today we're going to talk about how to figure out how much money and labor you have in each animal that you raise. So I got some water loaded up. We gotta go water chickens, and we're gonna wet the pigs down, give them a little water, and we're gonna talk more about this when we get there. So as my normal luck would kick in, I get out here and it starts raining. Not gonna last long, but it's a pretty good little shower. These pastures need it, so we're gonna wait it out. I was wrong. It's gonna stay for a minute. And this is the beauty of farming. All right, back at it today. Had to abort the whole mission yesterday. It rained all yesterday afternoon, which is fine. I love it, it's perfect. Before I move on with this real quick, I wanna show you guys something that's pretty dadgum amazing at what those guys behind me do in about a week and a half. And then I wanna show you how it recovers. So hold tight with me just a second. So this is a paddock they're in now. And you see, it's still got a lot of grass growing in it, things like that. They rooted up around the edges. They're over here checking me out. And now, let's look at where they were. So this is the area where they were rooting up a week and a half ago. I want you to look at how green that grass is. You already see all my stuff. How green that grass is and how well it's growing back and all that stuff. This grass is greener than the grass outside of it. The chickens hadn't even been here yet. You see the chicken house back there in the back. They move here next. But man, it recovers so well. I love it. All right, enough goofing off. Let's get down to it and talk about how much these guys are worth. And I'm going to talk to you about this from start to finish, all the way through to however you want to do this. If you want to sell it as a whole animal, or if you want to sell them as a half and whole processed meat, or if you want to do sure enough retail cuts like what we do and sell at farmers markets or anything like that. So let's dive in. All right, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to forget about how much meat costs at the store, okay? That has zero to do with your meat and the things that you produce. Number two is don't worry about what other farmers are selling their meat for. That's one of the biggest things that I hear in these social media groups and all that stuff. Somebody says, oh my gosh, I'm brand new to this, processing meat. What do I price it for? Where do I price it? How do I price it? Number one thing that I see come back is, oh, look at other farms in your area, see what they sell it for, and just figure it out from there. Sure, that's a good starting point, but the real question is, how much do you want to sell your meat for? Now with that question comes all sorts of different things. So the first thing that you got to figure out is how much money do you have in each animal? Now there's all sorts of different ways to figure this out, and there's all sorts of different things to talk about and factor into that cost. So we're going to dive right in and we're going to look at it the way that we do it, okay? So we have a farrow to finish operation. So that means that our piglets are born on this farm, they're raised on this farm all the way to butchering age. They get butchered here, or not here, but we send them to butcher, package them, and we load them up. And if we don't sell it from the farm, it goes to farmers markets and we sell it there. So the cost that we have per animal is very, very minimal. Now, if you are an all-in, all-out operation, which means that you buy all of your animals, whether it's a pig or cow or whatever, you buy all of those animals and you raise them, then you butcher them and you sell them, okay? So that's all in, all out. In that situation, you have to figure in the cost of the animal as well, okay? So that's the first cost that you need to write down on your list is, how much did I pay for that animal, or is that animal free to me? So the next portion of this is obviously how much money do you have in feed for each animal per the duration of their lifespan. So in our operation, our pigs are 8 to 9 month pigs. Okay, so we have a group like this. This is 16 pigs. So at 8 months we start butchering, and then over that, for the 8th and the 9th month is when the butchering of this group will take place. So what I have figured out over time has been the best point to calculate how much feed these guys will eat in their lifetime is at about 4 months old. Okay, at 4 months old, I can take 600 pounds of feed and put in that bulk feeder right there, and it will last these pigs for 7 days. Okay, at that point you have to break down and say, okay, that's my average. This is their average. When they were piglets, they didn't eat that much. Okay, a couple months ago they didn't eat that much. A couple months from now they're going to eat more than that. So your average is about the middle of their lifespan. So if you're doing pigs and you have the fantastic breeds or crosses that grow out in 5 to 6 months, your calculation is going to be different than what this is. This is guidelines. This is going to give you an idea of how to get there and what all you need to calculate in. So for me, I calculate my feed at 4 months, and that tells me over the 8 months how many pounds of feed I'm going to feed this group of pigs for the 8 months. And then you'll take that and you'll do your math by the amount of pigs that you have, and that'll tell you how much per pig they're eating in that 8 month period. After that, you have to figure out how much you've been paying for that feed. Okay, so in some places, I mean, I hear people that are getting some fantastic deals. They're paying 21 cents a pound and all this other stuff for feed. In my area, the non-GMO feed that we feed, we're paying 28 cents a pound for the feed that we feed. So that's where my math comes from. All right. So the next cost, obviously, is going to be where you spend your hard dollars. Okay. So that's how much money do you have in the butchering of each one of these pigs. That's easy to figure out. Take them all, and you know, sometimes like some of the processors we use to do link sausage, they charge us a little bit more. So you're going to have pigs that, if you do all ground sausage and no links or something along those lines, you're obviously going to pay less. Okay, so you're going to have to take an average of that. So normally, after you get this whole group done, you will take the average of how much you paid for all of it to be processed, and then you'll average it by however many pigs you did. Okay, so now this is where you're at with this whole process. Okay, so you have the cost of the animal, if you had cost in the animal, then you have the cost of the feed, and then you have the cost of the butchering. So you sit there and you think back and you're like, what else is there? What else? How do I figure out how much a pork chop costs from that? Stick with me, there's a lot more to this. Now it's time to think about what you put in to growing that animal. Sweat equity. What is your labor worth when you're doing what you do on your farm? So for us, when we first started, we kind of took an average of how much time we spent per day, and we just kind of kept track of it, right? So if we came out here for 20 minutes in the afternoons and we checked feeders, we checked fences, we checked the water barrels and all that stuff, you know, it was at 20 minutes. So 20 minutes a day on a group of 16 pigs over 8 months. Okay, that's not enough, because you do have times when you come out here and you're spending an hour and a half times 2 people most of the time in our situation to move this setup. So like right before I started this video today, we went ahead and set up the next paddock. So we had 30 minutes in that. But then when it actually comes to moving day, you've got about an hour and a half of opening the fences up, giving the animals time to move, moving your charger, moving, in our case, our shade trailer with water on it, and then moving the feeder, and then closing them back up. And then you spend a little time with them just to make sure that they found the boundaries and that they're not going to be crazy and run through something. So you take how many ever times you moved those animals, and you take that time, and then the time that you spend with them on a daily basis, and then you average that across the 8 to 9 months that it takes you to do that. That's how you come up with how many hours you have per animal, and then you can come up with how much you want to get paid. So if you were to go work on somebody else's farm with your knowledge of raising these animals, What kind of wage would you want from that farmer when you got paid at the end of the week? Do you want $10 an hour? Do you want $20 an hour? Or do you want $50 an hour? Remember, forget what everybody else charges. This is your product. This is how much you want to make on your product. So think about that. When you're figuring your labor, figure out how much you want to make and how much you would get paid if you did this for somebody else. All right, so this is the point we're at. Okay, so you got the cost of the animal if you had it. You've got how much feed did you feed that animal over its lifespan? And then you've got your labor, your sweat equity into it. How much do you want to get paid for the work that you're doing to provide people with a better source of food to eat? There's a lot of other things that you can get into with this, okay? But there's going to be a lot of things too that you've got to consider that are going to pay for itself over time when you do receive a profit on these figures, okay? So you got infrastructure. How much did all of my electric fencing cost? How much did that electrical solar charger cost? Water. What did this change your water bill to? Did you put in a water infrastructure to get out here? Did you run, 500 feet of garden hose, or did you run 500 feet of black, pipe and put it in the ground and got spigots everywhere? How much did you have in that? Fuel cost, taking it from your property to the processor and then going back to pick it up. There's a lot of things to consider when you put your pricing together, okay? These are the biggest highlights. Of course, at some point or another, you're going to have to learn the meat itself. You obviously don't want to come up with an average of my hanging weight for that pig is going to be, anywhere from $5 to $8 a pound, sometimes more in certain situations. But if you come up with that hanging weight, this is what my meat is worth per pound at hanging weight, you're still not done. You need to go and you need to educate yourself on cuts of meat. Pigs can be cut a lot of different ways. If you get a baby back rib, you don't get a bone-in pork chop. You can get meaty bacon and not so meaty ribs. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. You can get shoulder steaks versus a whole Boston butt. You can grind your hams for sausage rather than having this gigantic piece of meat to try to sell to somebody. Or you can slice that into pork steaks, ham steaks. So know your meat, know what you're selling, know all the cuts, and know what are the prime cuts and what are the not so prime cuts. Know what the difference is in just a package of ground sausage versus linked sausage. There's things that are gonna cost more, and you're just gonna have to learn what those cuts are. And in a real world setting for all the cityites that live in a city that stop off at your Publix or Winn-Dixie or Kroger's or wherever and buy their meat, what do they pay for it there? I know I told you to lay off of that, but what do they pay for it there? And if you took that and you said, okay, now that I got my meat back and I'm looking at it and I've got 35 pounds of pork chops, okay, take that math, back it up on what the store's charging people for, then you can start seeing how much more your meat is worth. You can't go out and charge what the store charges. You can't charge what the guy in another state charges, because he may have the perfect setup with a feed mill somewhere, getting his feed for next to nothing, or he may have a different type of pig that he's paying a lot of money for, or he may have a deal worked out where he's getting his animals for free from somebody else. You can't really pay attention to what somebody else is selling and what they're selling it for. You got to figure out what it's worth to you and how to figure out per cut. The per cuts are a little bit harder, and you are going to have to look at somebody else. You don't want to charge, $5 a pound for a tenderloin. I mean, come on, it's a tenderloin, right? So, you're going to have to bump those prices up and look at what it is, and is it a prime cut or is it not a prime cut? A boneless pork chop is going to be worth more than a bone-in pork chop. Meaty ribs are going to be worth more than the ribs that got kind of a little skimpy because we wanted meaty bacon. There's all sorts of different things when you get to the cuts. What I'm giving you is going to figure out how much that animal is worth hanging there as a full carcass that's at the processor right now. How much is it worth per pound? This information that I'm giving you is perfect for that. Just don't miss anything, okay? You know, cost of the animal, cost of the feed, cost of your labor, and then any other little thing that you've put into it. You know, did you have to drive 2 hours to go pick up pigs? Are you in a diesel truck? Or are you in a gas burner? I mean, if you're having to go that far, yes, calculate that into it. You need to recoup the money that you've put into this, and you don't want to recoup all that money and then at the end of the day you didn't put any labor in it, and then you put 5% on top of everything that you spent, and then all the small things that you didn't account for, you're not getting paid for. So make sure that you're accounting for everything that you did, okay? So I'll give you a brief scenario. So our pork is worth $8 to $9 a pound hanging weight to us. And what that has in it is our 28 cents a pound feed. It's non-GMO feed. We pay a little bit more for it because we want to put out a premium product. And then the animals themselves, we don't pay for the animals because we're farrow to finish. So at the end of the day, between feed and our processing, you can bet that I have $600 to $700 in each pig. Then at that, I have to add in my labor, okay? So that bumps it up, and then you can go look at our website, Tillman Family Farms.square something, and see that we sell a whole hog cut for $1,100. We sell a half a hog cut and packaged for $550, okay? So that will tell you around about where our prices fall. And did we look at a lot of other people's stuff? Yes. I'm not telling you not to look at it. What I'm trying to tell you is that those things and those people that you're looking at, they have a different infrastructure. They buy a different feed than you do. They bought their pigs from somebody else, or maybe they had them in a farrowing pen out there somewhere. Their situation is different. It's not gonna be the same at every farm. You need to learn what you do to figure out what your prices are gonna be. Now you can do this same thing with cattle, you can do the same thing with chickens, you can do the same thing with all of it. Know the costs that you're putting into each animal, and then figure out what it's worth to you. Sell it for what you need to sell it for. This is the best advice that I can give you. I'm sure that there's probably holes in this advice. There's always holes in my advice everywhere, but this is going to lead you in a good direction as far as being able to think about it and think rationally about it, and you can expand on the things that I've talked about here. And you know, maybe there's a lot more hidden costs in your operation than there is mine. But for this video, that's as far as I'm going to go. I hope this was helpful to you. Some of you guys may get a little lengthy, but hopefully it will lead you in the right direction to get you what you need to know. We appreciate you guys watching. We love all of our subscribers. It's been really cool here lately because we got above 1,000 subscribers, and we're getting more comments, we're getting more questions, we're getting more likes and all this stuff. So it's really cool. So if you haven't done so, please go down, like and subscribe, ring that bell so that you'll see all the videos that we put out. And we're going to close this one down, and we will see you on the next one.